1. Forbidden Jedi Love. Let's kick things off with one of the most controversial theories in Star Wars fandom, the idea that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Padme Amidala shared secret romantic feelings. This theory exploded after Revenge of the Sith, specifically during that gut-wrenching confrontation on Mustafar when Anakin screams at Padme, "You're with him. You brought him here to kill me." Some fans argue that Anakin's accusation wasn't just paranoid rage, but instinct picking up on something real. Throughout the prequel trilogy, Obi-Wan shows genuine warmth toward Padme that occasionally feels deeper than diplomatic courtesy. When he visits her apartment in Attack of the Clones, there's tenderness in his concern. When he travels to Mustafar searching for answers about Anakin's fall, his pain feels intensely personal, not just professional duty. The theory suggests Obi-Wan harbored feelings he never acted on, bound by Jedi discipline and loyalty to Anakin. Nothing in canon confirms an affair actually happened, but the speculation reframes Anakin's descent as partly fueled by jealousy and suspicion, making his fall feel even more tragic and human. It paints Obi-Wan as a man torn between impossible loyalties, a brother who may have loved his best friend's wife but would never betray him, creating layers of unspoken tension beneath every interaction. This interpretation transforms their final confrontation from simple tragedy into something far more complex and devastating, suggesting that Anakin's darkness grew from seeds of doubt and perceived betrayal that may have contained fragments of emotional truth, even if physical betrayal never occurred. 2. Princess of Power. Here's a theory that flips the Skywalker legacy on its head. Leia Organa possessed equal or potentially greater force sensitivity than Luke Skywalker, but wielded it completely differently. The evidence starts early in The Empire Strikes Back when Leia senses Luke's distress from across the galaxy while he hangs beneath Cloud City, calling out to him through the Force without any training whatsoever. Luke needed months with Yoda to achieve comparable feats of long-distance Force connection. In The Last Jedi, we witness Leia survive explosive decompression in the vacuum of space and pull herself back to the Raddus using pure Force willpower. An incredible display of raw power and survival instinct that shocked audiences worldwide. The Rise of Skywalker confirmed that Luke trained Leia after Endor, and she achieved remarkable skill rapidly, mastering abilities in months that took him years, before sensing darkness in her son's future and choosing to stop her training to focus on leadership. The theory proposes that Leia's natural ability matched or exceeded Luke's, but she weaponized her Force connection through political leadership rather than combat. She read people with uncanny accuracy, anticipated political moves, inspired absolute loyalty, and held together a fractured rebellion through sheer determination and strategic brilliance. While Luke exiled himself after failing Ben Solo, Leia continued fighting, leading the Resistance through devastating losses, never surrendering despite overwhelming odds. This theory suggests true strength isn't measured in lightsaber duels but in impact and perseverance, proving the twin who chose politics over Jedi training ultimately wielded the Force more effectively. 3. Apprentice's Restraint. The duel between Ahsoka Tano and Darth Vader in Rebels remains one of Star Wars' most emotionally devastating moments, and this theory makes it even more heartbreaking. The idea is simple but profound. Ahsoka was actually stronger than Vader during their Malachor confrontation, but she held back because she couldn't bring herself to kill Anakin Skywalker. Watch the fight closely, and you see Ahsoka's conflict in every movement. She lands multiple strikes that could have been fatal if pressed harder. She disarms him, damages his helmet, and forces him backward repeatedly. But every offensive creates hesitation. Every advantage makes her pause. Vader fights with brutal efficiency and dark side fury, but Ahsoka fights with love and grief, which both empowers and restrains her simultaneously. The theory proposes that if Ahsoka had committed fully to killing Vader, if she'd struck without mercy when his guard dropped, she would have won decisively. But she couldn't finish him because she kept seeing her master beneath the mask, hoping desperately for redemption even as Vader's yellow eyes promised only death. Her love became her greatest weakness in that moment. allowing Vader to survive when pure combat skills should have ended him. This theory transforms the duel from a simple battle into something tragic and beautiful. A student who grew powerful enough to defeat her master but loved him too much to finish the job, choosing hope over victory until the very last moment when the Sith Temple collapsed around them. 4. Windu's survival. Samuel L. Jackson himself is the biggest champion of this theory. Mace Windu survived being blasted out of Palpatine's office window by Force lightning in Revenge of the Sith. Jackson has repeatedly stated in interviews that Mace is alive, pointing out that we never see a body or funeral, and Jedi have survived far worse throughout canon. Consider the evidence supporting survival. Darth Maul was cut in half and fell down a reactor shaft on Naboo, then survived through pure hatred and the dark side, eventually returning in the Clone Wars. Anakin Skywalker lost 3 limbs and burned alive on Mustafar, only to be rebuilt as Darth Vader. If those catastrophic injuries can be overcome through Force power and medical intervention, why couldn't Mace survive a fall from a Coruscant skyscraper? He's one of the Order's most powerful members, a master of Form 7 Vapad lightsaber combat and advanced Force techniques. He'd have precious seconds to slow his descent using the Force, grab onto passing speeders in heavy traffic, or crash through a window into a building below. The real mystery is what happened after the fall. The theory suggests Mace went into deep hiding as Order 66 executed his fellow Jedi across the galaxy, too injured or traumatized to fight back immediately against the entire Empire. Perhaps he's waiting in exile somewhere, recovering strength, biding time. With no confirmation of death and Jackson's enthusiastic public endorsement keeping hope alive, this theory refuses to die, suggesting Mace Windu could return when the galaxy needs him most. 5. Emperor's Dark Creation. One of the most debated theories claims that Palpatine is Anakin's father, having used Sith alchemy and midi-chlorian manipulation to create the Chosen One. This speculation draws primarily from the 2018 Darth Vader comic series, specifically issue 25, where Anakin experiences a dark side vision showing Palpatine's shadowy figure looming ominously over pregnant Shmi Skywalker. The imagery appears shockingly direct, seemingly confirming Palpatine's role in Anakin's miraculous conception. Supporting context comes from Palpatine's own words in Revenge of the Sith, when describing Darth Plagueis. He could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life, followed by a meaningful pause before adding, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. Some fans interpret this as Palpatine confessing he used his murdered master's techniques to father Anakin, engineering the Chosen One as a weapon to destroy the Jedi from within. The thematic perfection is undeniable. The ultimate corruption would be Palpatine not merely turning the Chosen One to evil, but actually creating him for that exact purpose from the beginning, transforming prophecy into Sith conspiracy. However, Lucasfilm Story Group members, including Matt Martin, have clarified that the comic panel represents symbolic imagery rather than literal events, showing how Palpatine's long-term manipulation shaped Anakin's destiny without making him Anakin's biological creator. The Force itself created Anakin as a response to Sith imbalance, not at Palpatine's direction. Still, the theory endures because the ambiguity feels intentional, leaving just enough doubt to fuel endless speculation. If you're loving these wild theories, hit that hype button and drop your own favorite Star Wars speculation in the comments. Let's get this video trending together. And don't forget to subscribe because we're just getting started with the madness. 6. Gungan Sith Lord, perhaps the most infamous Star Wars theory ever conceived. Jar Jar Binks is a secret Sith Lord who manipulated galactic events from the shadows. This theory went explosively viral in 2015 when Reddit user Lumpawaru compiled extensive evidence suggesting Jar Jar used Force influence and acrobatics throughout The Phantom Menace while pretending to be clumsy. The analysis points to his improbable battlefield survival despite seemingly random movements, his exaggerated physical maneuvers that mirror Force-assisted techniques when analyzed frame by frame, his impossible political rise from exiled outcast to Gungan representative to galactic senator, and most damningly, his crucial role granting Palpatine emergency powers in Attack of the Clones that directly enabled the Empire's creation. The conspiracy imagines Jar Jar as either Darth Plagueis' apprentice or Palpatine's secret partner, a master manipulator hiding behind a fool's bumbling mask. Ahmed Best, Jar Jar's actor, has discussed in various interviews that George Lucas did film additional scenes exploring Jar Jar's relationship with Palpatine, though the exact nature of these deleted scenes remains tantalizingly ambiguous. The theory draws deliberate parallels to Yoda, another small creature whose harmless exterior concealed immense power, but inverted to evil. However, absolutely no canon material supports Sith Jar Jar beyond fan interpretation. Lucas never confirmed the theory despite numerous opportunities, and Jar Jar's subsequent appearances in the Clone Wars portray him as genuinely naive and increasingly tragic, a well-meaning fool whose political career inadvertently enabled tyranny. The theory remains purely speculative, a brilliant what-if scenario. 7. Endor's Dark Victory. The Endor Holocaust theory argues that destroying the Death Star 2 should have devastated the forest moon below, turning the Ewok celebration into tragic irony. Consider the brutal physics. A battle station roughly 200 kilometers in diameter explodes in orbit above Endor, releasing catastrophic energy, radiation, and debris. Massive fragments would rain down like civilization-ending meteors. Superheated metal would ignite the atmosphere, and radioactive fallout would poison the biosphere for generations. The explosion's shockwave alone could trigger firestorms across entire continents. The Ewoks, who heroically helped destroy the Empire, would become the first victims of their own victory. Their forests burned to ash, their villages irradiated wastelands, their species potentially facing extinction within days. Early Legends novels like The Truce at Bakura acknowledge this danger, with later expanded universe stories describing Imperial survivors suffering radiation exposure and New Republic relief efforts to evacuate or shield Endor from debris impact. However, modern canon largely sidesteps this issue, treating Endor as surviving relatively intact with thriving Ewok populations continuing to appear in supplementary material. The Rise of Skywalker shows substantial Death Star 2 wreckage scattered across Kef Bir's oceans, a different moon in the Endor system, suggesting the explosion dispersed across multiple celestial bodies rather than concentrating destructively on the forest moon. The theory remains scientifically plausible but narratively dismissed, a dark thought experiment about victory's true cost that canon deliberately avoids exploring to preserve the original trilogy's triumphant conclusion and joyful celebration. 8. Hidden Menace Revealed. This interpretive theory proposes that Darth Maul isn't actually the Phantom Menace referenced in Episode 1's title. Palpatine is. Maul serves as misdirection, a terrifying Sith warrior who draws Jedi attention while the real threat rises unnoticed through political channels. The Jedi focus obsessively on Maul's appearance, his vicious attack on Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, his assassination attempt on Queen Amidala's decoy, treating him as the primary danger to the Republic. Meanwhile, Senator Palpatine manipulates the Trade Federation blockade, orchestrates Queen Amidala's dramatic flight to Coruscant, engineers his own election as Supreme Chancellor through sympathy votes, and gains emergency powers, all while maintaining his kind, grandfatherly senator persona that nobody suspects. Maul is visible, physical, obvious, a red-skinned devil with a double-bladed lightsaber. Palpatine is invisible, political, phantom, a smiling politician who promises safety while accumulating absolute power. The theory suggests George Lucas deliberately titled the film to highlight this deception, showing how democracies fall not to obvious monsters, but to charismatic leaders who exploit fear and promise order. By the time the Jedi realize the true menace, Palpatine has already won, having used Maul as both weapon and distraction. Maul's defeat on Naboo accomplishes nothing strategically because he was never the real threat, just a disposable tool. This interpretation elevates the Phantom Menace from simple action movie to political thriller, reframing the entire prequel trilogy as the story of how evil hides in plain sight, wearing a friendly mask while darkness works methodically in shadows, corrupting democracy from within. 9. Trooper's hidden sensitivity. Finn being Force-sensitive isn't merely fan theory anymore. It's heavily implied canon that the rise of Skywalker hinted at, but frustratingly never made explicit. Throughout the sequel trilogy, Finn demonstrates abilities suggesting genuine Force connection. He breaks through First Order conditioning when his empathy and moral compass override years of brainwashing, something extremely rare among indoctrinated soldiers. He wields Luke's lightsaber against Kylo Ren on Starkiller Base and survives significantly longer than any untrained person should, suggesting the Force subtly guides his defensive movements. In The Rise of Skywalker, he repeatedly senses danger before it manifests, feels Rey's emotional distress across vast distances, and desperately tries confessing something crucial to her that the film never reveals. The official novelization by Ray Carson confirms what the movie only implied. Finn wanted to tell Rey he's Force-sensitive, explaining his instinctual awareness and battlefield intuition throughout their adventures together. John Boyega confirmed in multiple interviews that Finn's Force sensitivity was always part of his character arc, though it never received proper development or satisfying resolution on screen due to the trilogy's crowded narrative and competing storylines. The theory imagines Finn eventually receiving proper Jedi training, using his unique perspective as both former First Order soldier and Force user to help rebuild the Jedi Order along more inclusive, less dogmatic lines. His sensitivity manifests through empathy, intuitive connection, and moral clarity rather than overwhelming raw power, representing a fundamentally different type of Force user than the Skywalker lineage produced, one focused on compassion over combat. 10. E.T.'s galactic citizenship. Sharp-eyed fans spotted E.T.'s species appearing in the Galactic Senate during The Phantom Menace, creating a delightful crossover Easter egg between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg universes. During Queen Amidala's impassioned address to the Senate about Naboo's invasion, the camera pans across various alien delegation pods, and for a brief moment, 3 creatures resembling E.T. sit clearly visible among the representatives. This cameo spawned playful theories that E.T.'s species exists canonically within Star Wars, representing some distant planet in the Outer Rim or unknown regions. The theory gained unexpected support when, back in Spielberg's original 1982 film E.T. the Extraterrestrial, E.T. himself recognizes a child dressed as Yoda on Halloween, pointing excitedly and saying, "Home," suggesting he'd encountered Yoda's species before his Earth adventure. Obviously, the real explanation involves friendly directors including affectionate references to each other's work, rather than establishing actual shared continuity between franchises. The galaxy far, far away and E.T.'s contemporary Earth exist in completely separate fictional universes despite the visual cameo. Still, the theory delights fans who imagine crossover possibilities. Perhaps E.T.'s people developed hyperspace technology, sent delegates to represent their world in the Galactic Republic, then later visited Earth during peaceful exploration where one unfortunate individual got stranded in suburban California. It's canonically meaningless but thematically fun, reminding us that both franchises celebrate wonder, friendship, and connection across impossible distances, even if the Force and phone home inhabit different realities entirely. Sometimes the best theories celebrate joy over logic. That's every major theory explained. For now. Which one do you think could actually be true? Which ones are complete nonsense? Drop your wildest Star Wars theories in the comments, smash that hype button, and subscribe for more deep dives into the galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you.